The life of Aang. Aang was a male air nomad born in 12 BG and the Avatar during the 100-Year War, succeeding Avatar Roku and preceding Avatar Korra. Shortly before the beginning of the 100-Year War, Aang was frozen in an iceberg for 100 years. He later emerged, still biologically 12 years old, into a world engulfed by war. It fell to Aang, the Avatar and the last airbender, to end the war by mastering the other three elements and defeating Fire Lord Ozai. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of Aang. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Aang was born to 2 air nomads in 12 BG. After selecting the Avatar relics from among thousands of toys, thereby inadvertently confirming his identity as the Avatar, he was taken away by the monks of the Southern Air Temple, who kept his position a secret from him. As an air nomad, Aang traveled extensively around the world. During his childhood, Aang was housed, raised, and educated at the Southern Air Temple, under the guardianship of Monk Gyatso, who served as his father figure, counselor, and tutor. After some time, he and several other young air nomad boys were taken to the Eastern Air Temple, where they each chose a sky bison as their lifelong companion. Aang approached his soon-to-be sky bison Appa and offered him an apple, which Appa accepted, thus marking the start of their deep and lifelong friendship. Aang was always able to excel at any new bending moves he learned. At the age of 6, he was a better airbender than children twice his age, and by the age of 10, Aang had proven himself to be better than his own teachers. He earned airbending tattoos and the status of an airbending master by the age of 12 for exhibiting prodigious talent with his native element and with his invention of the air scooter, making him the youngest airbending master in air nomad history. In his childhood, Aang also visited the other air temples, as evidenced by his obvious familiarity with the Western Air Temple, as well as cities in the Earth Kingdom such as Omashu, where he developed a lasting friendship with the good-natured but eccentric Bumi. He bonded closely with children in the Fire Nation like Kuzan, with whom he went searching for a dragon in the mountains and saved a dragon egg from poachers. Due to the signs of a possible war approaching, Aang was told about his status as the Avatar at the age of 12, 4 years earlier than the traditional age of 16. Aang felt burdened by his status as the other children refused to play with him anymore, and he came to spend more time practicing airbending with the monks. Monk Gyatso was the only one who shared an understanding of Aang's burden, having been good friends with Avatar Roku, Aang's past life, and tried to help ease Aang through the transition from childhood to adulthood by providing Aang with balance through fun during the upheaval in his life. However, Aang later discovered that he would be sent to the Eastern Air Temple in order to complete his airbending training far away from Monk Gyatso, whom the other monks thought was too soft on him. Afraid and confused, the young airbender ran away with his flying bison, Appa, though they became caught in a storm shortly after, which caused them to crash into the water. Aang saved himself and Appa from drowning by semi-consciously entering the Avatar state and freezing them both in a sphere of ice through a combination of airbending and waterbending. The Avatar state kept him alive, albeit not fully conscious, in the iceberg for about 100 years while the war raged on. 100 years later, Aang was found and freed from the iceberg by siblings Katara and Sokka of the Southern Water Tribe. He quickly befriended them and almost immediately attracted the attention of Prince Zuko, who sought to capture him on the command of his father, Fire Lord Ozai. A newly formed Team Avatar set out to find a waterbending master who could teach Katara and Aang, evading Zuko's attempts to capture them on their journey to the North Pole. While helping rid Sinlin village of Heibai, a spirit that was destroying their village, Aang crossed over to the spirit world where he met Fang, the animal guide of his predecessor, Avatar Roku. He was instructed to visit the Avatar Temple on Crescent Island during the winter solstice so he could talk with Avatar Roku. Despite a confrontation with most of the Fire Sages whose loyalty had turned from the Avatar to the Fire Lord, Aang managed to speak with Roku, who warned him about the impending arrival of Sozin's Comet, which would grant the Fire Nation enough power to win the war. Roku urged Aang to master the 3 remaining elements before summer's end when the comet was due to arrive, or no one would ever be able to restore balance to the world. When Aang was later captured by Admiral Zhao, Zuko came to his aid under the identity of the Blue Spirit, freeing the former so that he could capture the Avatar himself. Aang, Sokka, and Katara continued their travels to the Northern Water Tribe while developing a tighter bond, as Aang began to develop a crush for Katara. Upon the group's arrival at the Northern Water Tribe, Aang was displeased to learn that the waterbending master Pakku would not teach Katara due to the law barring women from learning combative waterbending, and was instead instructed to heal. However, she was able to change Pakku's mind, and they both began to learn from him. The period of calm was brief, as Zhao commanded an attack on the Northern Water Tribe with a large fleet of ships. At Princess Yue's suggestion, Aang decided to seek the guidance of the Ocean and Moon Spirits, patrons of the Northern Water Tribe. Aang learned through a spirit named Ko that the spirits existed in the mortal world, but his physical self had been captured by Zuko while he was in the spirit world. Aang's friends managed to rescue him, but not before Zhao arrived at the spirit oasis and killed the Moon Spirit, who was the source of power for waterbenders. Determined not to fail the Water Tribe, Aang merged with the Ocean Spirit and proceeded to annihilate the Fire Nation ships, winning the battle and forcing them to retreat. Aang and his friends left the north on a ship with Pakku and several others before flying to an Earth Kingdom base, from where they were to be escorted to Omashu in order for Aang to learn earthbending from King Bumi. The trio decided to travel alone as the general commanding the fortress tried to force Aang into the Avatar state, causing chaos and destruction. Upon arriving at Omashu, they learned that the city had fallen to the Fire Nation. Seeking to save the king, Aang and his friends evacuated citizens from the city in order to aid the Omashu resistance. But in the process, the governor's son Tom Tom followed them out. Team Avatar was sent a messenger hawk, reporting that the governor would trade the king for his son, but Princess Azula reneged on the deal, leading to a skirmish between the Avatar and the princess's allies. While he managed to find Bumi, the king told Aang that he would not leave Omashu and encouraged him to find a master who embodied the principles of neutral Jing. Before leaving Omashu on this quest, the team returned Tom Tom. While in the city of Gaoling, they heard about and attended a tournament that supposedly featured the best earthbenders in the world, hoping to find an earthbending teacher for Aang. At the end of the tournament, they witnessed the final fight between one of the popular contestants and the current champion, a blind girl. During the match, Aang realized the girl was the same one he had received a vision of while lost in the foggy swamp, and noticed her technique of waiting and listening before attacking, easily defeating her opponent. The ringmaster offered a sack of gold pieces to anyone who dared to face the blind bandit. Aang accepted the challenge in order to talk to the girl, but she ignored him after he caught her off guard by deflecting her attack with airbending. The group learned that the girl belonged to the Beifong family and visited their estate, posing as a formal visit by the Avatar. However, he learned that the Earthbender, a girl named Toph, was hiding her true abilities from her family. When she and Aang were kidnapped, Toph managed to fight off all of the attackers, revealing her skill to her parents, and ran away from home in order to join Aang's group. Due to Earth being the elemental opposite of air, Aang struggled to learn earthbending, but within the first day of training he managed to stand his ground and successfully earthbend. Soon after, Team Avatar was separated during a Fire Nation ambush. As they were searching for Katara, Aang, Toph, and Sokka captured a Fire Nation soldier. Aang was left disturbed by this encounter as the young man frantically believed the Air Nomads to be evil. Team Avatar was soon reunited with the aid of Jiang's pirates. While taking a brief vacation to the Misty Palms Oasis, the group was led to Wan Shitong's library in the middle of the Siwang Desert, and learned valuable information on a solar eclipse that would leave the firebenders powerless. After emerging from the library, they discovered that they had lost Appa, who had been captured and sold by desert tribesmen. After meeting the kidnappers and learning of Appa's fate, an enraged Aang entered the Avatar state and destroyed the tribe's sand sailors. In spite of Appa's absence, the group aimed to travel to Ba Sing Se and inform the Earth King in order to plan an invasion of the Fire Nation. After finding their way out of the desert and crossing the Serpent's Pass, the group discovered a giant Fire Nation drill trying to penetrate the outer wall of Ba Sing Se. General Sung was reluctant at first to accept the group's help, but after witnessing the quick defeat of his Terra team at the hands of Ty Lee and Mei, he gladly accepted the Avatar's assistance. In a joint effort, the group managed to defeat Azula's team and destroy the drill. Upon reaching Ba Sing Se, Aang discovered that the city was the site of a conspiracy. True power did not lie with the Earth King, but with the Grand Secretariat Long Feng, who controlled the Dai Li, Ba Sing Se's secret police. The group learned of and infiltrated Long Feng's secret base in Lake Laogai, believing that he was holding Appa captive. After reuniting with the Sky Bison, they stormed the palace and informed Earth King Kui of Long Feng's betrayal. After convincing the king to arrest Long Feng and plan for an invasion on the day of the eclipse, the king's men searched Long Feng's office and found a message for Aang from Guru Patik that had been tied to Appa's horn. The message was a request for Aang to meet the Guru at the Eastern Air Temple and learn to control the Avatar state. After journeying to the temple, Patik helped Aang open all of his chakras but one, the thought chakra, as he refused to let go of his connection to Katara after receiving a vision of her in danger. Aang reunited with Sokka and Toph on the journey back to the city and learned that Azula, Mai, and Ty Lee had infiltrated the city. After reuniting with Katara in the Crystal Catacombs, the pair began to fight both Zuko and Katara before the arrival of the Dai Li, who had turned to the side of the Fire Nation princess. Aang successfully entered the Avatar state but was struck with a lightning bolt fired by Azula. The severe attack rendered his 7th chakra impossible to reopen and mortally wounded him while he was in the Avatar state, severing the connection of the Avatar spirit to the world and threatening the end of the Avatar cycle. Katara caught Aang while he fell to the ground, being able to escape thanks to Iroh's unexpected intervention. While escaping the city on Appa, Katara used water from the Spirit Oasis to revive him, restoring the Avatar spirit in turn, but he still remained grievously injured. For several weeks, Aang remained unconscious as he recovered from his injury. Aang awoke in the spirit world, where he underwent a long journey to reconnect with the 4 most recent incarnations in order to heal the Avatar spirit. When Aang awoke, he had no memory of his time in the spirit world, finding himself aboard a Fire Nation vessel and sporting hair, leading him to believe he had been captured, though he soon learned that the ship was commandeered by Team Avatar and their allies. Upon reaching the Fire Nation, the team prepared for the invasion on the day of the eclipse and disguised themselves as civilians. However, the team soon encountered a mysterious assassin that they dubbed Combustion Man, who tracked them down across the Fire Nation. On the day of the eclipse, Aang, Sokka, and Toph searched for Fire Lord Ozai in an underground bunker beneath the capital, but were kept at bay by Azula for the entire duration of the eclipse. Realizing that the day had been lost, they retreated to the Western Air Temple with their youngest allies. After arriving at the temple, the team was confronted by Zuko, who revealed that he wished to join their group. They initially rejected the prince, but after helping them defeat Combustion Man, Aang accepted Zuko as his firebending teacher. When they discovered that Zuko had lost touch with his inner fire due to his defection, Zuko and Aang sought out the Sun Warriors to learn the original source of firebending. After undergoing a trial from the dragons Ran and Shaw, Zuko and Aang were shown a new, hopeful side to firebending, which allowed the pair to greatly improve at the art. When Azula attacked the Western Air Temple following the rescue of Hakoda and Suki from the boiling rock, Aang and his allies were forced to flee once again. While Aang and his friends believed they could delay confronting the Fire Lord until after Sozin's Comet, as Ba Sing Se had already fallen, they realized that they had to battle the Fire Nation imminently when Zuko revealed his father's plan to annihilate the Earth Kingdom. Due to his Air Nomad belief in the sanctity of all life, Aang felt a strong anxiety about the concept of killing Ozai. When he left for an island off the shore of Ember Island, he met a lion turtle who taught him the art of energy bending. Armed with this knowledge, Aang went on to battle the Fire Lord in Wulong Forest, where a sharp rock pressing against his wound allowed him to enter the Avatar state once more. Though Aang was able to overpower the Fire Lord, he decided to spare Ozai's life, and used his newfound abilities to strip the Fire Lord of his bending. With the war now over, Aang attended Zuko's coronation, with the pair vowing to bring peace to the world. In search of restoring balance to the world, Team Avatar met with Earth King Kwai and Ba Sing Se after Zuko's coronation and initiated the Harmony Restoration movement to remove the Fire Nation colonies from the Earth Kingdom. Soon after, Aang and Katara began a romantic relationship with a passionate kiss at the Jasmine Dragon. Team Avatar split up after the 100-Year War, and Aang devoted his time to restoring peace and order in the world. He had helped to repatriate many Fire Nation colonists. After 1 year, however, Zuko unexpectedly withdrew his support for the decolonization efforts. Disturbed, Aang and Katara traveled to the colony of Yudao. There, the Fire Lord and Avatar could not agree on a course of action, as Zuko regarded the oldest colonies as prosperous communities which had the right to exist, while Aang saw them as a continued threat to the balance between the 4 nations. Regardless, Aang and Katara pledged to find a peaceful solution, deciding to address Earth King Kwai to this end. In Ba Sing Se, Aang was surprised and happy to discover the official Avatar Aang fan club, a group that had devoted itself to learning the ways of the Air Nomads. In contrast, the meeting with Kwai went poorly, as the king decided to remove the colonies by force. Aang and Katara hurried back to Yudao to convince the locals to leave before a new war could ignite. Faced with obstination from the colonists, as well as Earth Kingdom nationalists, he struggled to find a peaceful solution until the chaotic battle for Yudao erupted. Fearing that he would have to kill Zuko to prevent another war, Aang eventually concluded that it was no longer possible to keep the nations apart, and that the Fire Lord was right. To this end, the Avatar stopped the battle and convinced Kui to allow the old colonies to stay, albeit as self-governing polities. He also transformed the official Avatar Aang fan club into the first Air acolytes to revive Air Nomad culture. After solving the Yu Dao crisis, Aang, Katara, and Sokka decided to help Zuko in his search for his long-lost mother, Ursa. Doing so, they were forced to work with Azula, who had crucial information on Ursa's whereabouts. After a tense encounter with a wolf spirit, the group arrived in the remote village of Hira. There, they stayed at the home of two friendly actors, Norin and Noriko, but lost track of Zuko's mother. However, the group learned that Ursa's ex-boyfriend Ikem had disappeared in the nearby Forgetful Valley. At this deeply spiritual forested area, the Avatar and his comrades met Rafa and Misu, Water Tribe siblings who were seeking the aid of a powerful spirit known as the Mother of Faces. Aang offered his help, crossed over into the spirit world, and convinced the ancient spirit to grant them one wish. Team Avatar decided to spend the spirit's goodwill to help Rafa and Misu. However, Azula interjected and took the wish for herself, causing the Mother of Faces to reveal that she had helped Ikem and Ursa to start a new life by granting them new faces, those of Norin and Noriko, while also wiping Ursa's memories. Azula promptly took off, followed by Zuko and Sokka, as Aang and Katara attempted to convince the Mother of Faces to grant a second wish to help Rafa and Misu. A fight ensued as the Mother felt that humans were disrespectful and sent her spirit followers to attack them. While fending off the spirits, Aang accidentally blew off Rafa's mask, revealing that his face had been stolen by Ko, the son of the Mother of Faces. Revealing that an Avatar had once spared Ko, Aang managed to convince her to grant Rafa a new face. Soon after, the spirit also restored Ursa's face and memories. Aang and his friends consequently accompanied Zuko, Ursa, Norin, and their daughter Ki back to the Fire Nation capital. Team Avatar then attended the remaining talks on Yu Dao's future, during which Aang encountered Avatar Yang Chen's spirit but was unable to hear her. This meeting inspired him to revive Yang Chen's festival. In the process, Team Avatar and the Air Acolytes discovered that the Earth and Fire Refinery and a small settlement had been built on formerly sacred Air Nomad lands. Aang opposed this development, causing tensions with Toph, who advocated change. Despite the disruption caused by the factory, the Avatar and the Air Acolytes continued to try to celebrate Yang Chen's festival. While doing so, a ceremonial meal acted as a conduit that allowed Aang to finally connect with Yang Chen. However, an earthquake interrupted their conversation. The Avatar rushed to the Earth and Fire Refinery, where he learned that Katara, Toph, and several others were trapped in a mine under the factory. Aang was able to save the trapped group with the help of Toph's students. Afterward, the Avatar reconnected with Yang Chen and finally learned that Yang Chen's festival had been set up to placate the spirit, General Old Iron, who had wanted to avenge the alleged murder of his spirit friend Lady Tian Hai by humans. The factory's construction had roused his anger once again. When General Old Iron subsequently attacked, Aang tried to negotiate until the spirit moved to kill Toph and her students. The Air Nomad then deeply wounded the spirit, causing General Old Iron to retreat. Aang regretted this development, feeling that General Old Iron might be right that humans and spirits were unable to coexist. However, his hope was restored when Lady Tian Hai reappeared and revealed that she had not truly died and also always loved humanity, as well as its progressive ways. The Avatar consequently decided to reform Yang Chen's festival into the Spirit's Friendship Festival, something that preserved the Air Nomad traditions while also adapting to the new times. After solving the crisis at the Earth and Fire Refinery, Aang traveled to the Fire Nation to help Zuko, who faced alleged dark spirit attacks. The Avatar learned that several children had disappeared while political extremists under Okano were mobilizing opposition against the Fire Lord. Seeking a reason for the spirit's anger, Aang, Zuko, Mei, and Kalo visited Dragonbone catacombs where otherwise forgotten knowledge on the Fire Nation's past was stored. At the crypt of the first Fire Lord, the Air Nomad contacted a Kamirakage spirit who informed the group that their kind had not returned to haunt the Fire Nation since ancient times. Accordingly, Aang reasoned that the kidnappers were human imposters. The next night, the fake Kamirakage kidnapped Zuko's sister Ki. Aang and his friends were unable to stop them, but learned that the imposters were led by Azula. The Avatar consequently helped to locate and rescue the missing children, although the Kamirakage imposters escaped. Aang subsequently traveled to the South Pole to spend some time with Sokka and Katara. While there, the Avatar had to deal with Southern Water Tribe nationalists under Galak, who intended to overthrow Katara's father Hakoda as head chieftain of the South. After helping to defeat a first nationalist attack, Aang attended an international meeting organized by Hakoda. Galak and his allies used the opportunity to strike again, but Aang and Katara were able to prevent them from kidnapping Hakoda. Regardless, the nationalists captured Earth King Kui, leading to a tense prison exchange at the Bridge of No Return. Fighting quickly erupted and the nationalists were defeated. Aang saved Hakoda and Melina from falling to their deaths during these clashes. Shortly afterward, Aang and his friends ventured to the Earth and Fire Refinery, discovering that a city named Cranefish Town had emerged around it. The Avatar was asked by Lao Beifong to help solve disputes between benders and non-benders at the settlement. When several non-bender-owned factories, including the Earth and Fire Refinery, were sabotaged, Team Avatar decided to investigate. Aang and his friends discovered that Councilwoman Li Ling was organizing a bender supremacist movement, and captured her after infiltrating her secret rally. However, Aang was consequently faced with a dilemma as Toph urged him to take away Li Ling's bending to put an end to her movement, a fate considered by the conspirator as worse than death. Before he could decide, Li Ling escaped and started an armed uprising. The Avatar helped put down the insurgency and ultimately decided against removing the supremacist's bending, having concluded that this would not solve a conflict that was ultimately fueled by societal problems, distrust, and ideology. Aang and Katara consequently decided to stay in Cranefish Town, regarding it as a special place and wanting to help it develop into a better community. After the 100-Year War and the tensions of the Harmony Restoration Movement conflict, Aang managed to maintain peace. Together with Fire Lord Zuko and the rest of their friends, he transformed all of the former Fire Nation colonies into the United Republic of Nations. Cranefish Town, renamed Republic City, became the new state's capital and home to people from all nations. Aang worked closely with Zuko to allow Republic City to grow into a prosperous and safe environment, and had to deal with a growing number of bending criminals from the city's early days. In his efforts to revive the Air Nomad's culture, Aang scoured the ruins of the air temples for documents. He also attempted to maintain his people's cuisine, reconstructing old recipes based on his memories and badly damaged texts he found in the temples. This task was made more difficult by the fact that several special vegetables and fruits grown by the Air Nomads had gone extinct, forcing him to use ingredients from the other nations. Later on, Aang spearheaded the restoration of the 4 ancient air temples and constructed a 5th air temple near the heart of Republic City called Air Temple Island, where he housed a herd of surviving flying bison, along with a new type of winged lemur, the ring-tailed winged lemur, both of which he had found sometime after the war. Sometime during this period, Aang married Katara, and they had 3 children. Bumi, a non-bender who gained the ability to airbend in 171 AG, Kaya, a waterbender, and Tenzin, an airbender. When Tenzin turned 5, Aang began to collect a series of stories and mementos from his life for his youngest son to read following his death. Despite the peace the world was experiencing, family problems plagued the Avatar. Due to Aang's second responsibility of preserving Air Nomad culture, he spent more time and traveled more extensively with Tenzin, his only airbending child, so as to instill him with Air Nomad traditions. This made the elder siblings feel somewhat distant from their father. Despite this, Kaya was still comfortable enough to reveal her sexual orientation to him, being completely acceptable in Air Nomad culture. Aang was naturally supportive of her. In 128 AG, the city was suffering from a high rate of crime due to a notorious crime boss named Yukon. The fact that he was a master bloodbender, yet managed to stay out of the law's reach for a long time, caused Aang to find it necessary to assist the chief of police, Toph Beifong at the time, in his arrest in order to bring him to justice. Aang, Toph, and her metal-bending officers apprehended the crime lord at Kwang's cuisine. The criminal did not resist, and despite Aang saying that they knew he was a bloodbender, Yukon claimed that he would beat the charges again. After attending his arrest, Aang was present at Yukon's trial and sat behind the defendant in the gallery, where Yukon was convicted of his crimes. However, before the sentence could be carried out, Yukon used his powers to subdue everyone in the courtroom, leaving them unconscious. Aang was capable of holding out the longest, but he lost consciousness as well after Yukon used his skill to levitate the Avatar in the air and throw him against the stairs leading up to the court's platform. However, employing the Avatar state, Aang regained his senses, allowing him to pursue the criminal. He effectively halted Yukon's getaway by severing his mount from the carriage he was perched upon with an air swipe. Hovering around on an enhanced air scooter, Aang was subdued a second time by Yukon's bloodbending, who now fully intended to kill him. Entering the Avatar state, however, allowed Aang to break free of Yukon's grip, and he swiftly captured Yukon in an earth shell before utilizing energy bending to permanently remove his bending. In the mid-130s AG, Tenzin was arrested after apprehending some vandals on the docks of Republic City. Aang came to police headquarters and apologized to Toph, asking to take charge of Tenzin and the vandals. Tenzin apologized as they flew back on Appa, but Aang reassured him that he could never be a disappointment. Aang introduced Tenzin to conflict mediation in the style of the Air Nomads. Tenzin could say how he was wronged and the criminals had a chance to apologize before the air was cleansed and the resolution could be carried out. He watched Tenzin and the Vandals cleanse the airbender gates, and noted to Katara that it would not always be as easy as this, but Katara noted that Tenzin was still young and he should be given the easy problems for the time being. The 100 years Aang had spent frozen in an iceberg while in the Avatar state drained much of his inherent life energy, and by his later years the strain of this began to weigh heavily upon his body. With his health failing and sensing his end was near, Aang tasked the Order of the White Lotus to search for and watch over the next Avatar. Eventually, at the relatively young biological age of 66, Aang passed away. He was reincarnated into a headstrong, hot-headed, and rebellious girl named Korra from the Southern Water Tribe. A massive statue of Avatar Aang was created on Aang Memorial Island, a small island located in Yue Bay. A teenage Aang is depicted wearing Air Nomad monk robes and holding a staff with the airbending symbol on top, overlooking the city he founded with the help of his friends. The statue was created and donated by the Fire Nation as a sign of peace and goodwill. As is tradition, a statue of Aang was also added to the inner sanctuary of the Southern Air Temple in order to keep the line of statues of past avatars up to date. His statue stood in the middle of the assemblage. At the age of 17, Korra moved from the safety of the Southern Water Tribe compound to the bustling streets of Republic City. However, every time she found herself in serious trouble and was on the brink of slipping into unconsciousness, she would be plagued by visions of Aang's encounter with Yakone. Through these visions, it appeared Aang was attempting to warn Korra of the imminent threat that Yakone's son, Councilman Tarlok, posed to her, though it was later revealed that he was actually trying to warn her about Amon. However, it was not until Korra was at an extremely low point in life due to losing her bending that she inadvertently summoned Aang's spirit for the first time. During their talk, Aang explained that he was there because Korra had asked him to be, as she had finally connected with her spiritual self due to being open to the greatest change by hitting her lowest point. Aided by all of the previous avatars who appeared behind him, Aang compassionately used energy bending to restore Korra's bending and passed on the knowledge of the art to her. After Korra lost her memory due to a spiritual infection, Aang appeared before her, taking over from Korra's own reflection, and reminded his successor of her status as the Avatar before making room for Roku to appear. When Tenzin was stuck in the fog of lost souls, stricken with doubt over his potential inability to pave the way for future airbenders and live up to his father's legacy, a vision of Aang appeared before him. Tenzin apologized to his father and said that he would never be the man he was. The image of Aang agreed with this, much to the younger airbender's shock, and continued by saying Tenzin should never have tried to mimic him in the first place, and that he was trying to hold on to a false perception of himself. Aang finished by saying that Tenzin was not him, and that he should not be him but instead be his own person. Aang's image transformed into an image of Tenzin, and his son finally stepped out of his father's shadow. While Unalaq was attacking Rava, Korra envisioned Aang among the Avatar lineup she had seen prior to regaining her bending, and his connection was the first to be lost. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.